Hello everyone. So dear students, today we will talk about a very important method which is called design thinking for innovation. So in order to build a startup, I think this method or applying this method during the development of your product or services plays a very vital role. So let's see what is this. So what is innovation first? Uh, Basically, if you define this, it is like this. Innovation is a process of translating an idea or any invention into a useful product or a service that creates value. Now, which means now in case of innovation, creating value is very important. So these two words, creates value, is very essential. So which means if you are building a product or services that is used by somebody else, whereby you are creating value for them, and then you call that in that case you can say that the process of building the product was an innovation, right? So it's very essential that you learn the process of design thinking in order to seek the opportunities of innovation. So let's see what is that. But before we move on to this process of design thinking, I want you to understand why it is important for startups. We have gone through top reasons of startup failures, and we have seen that the one of the most highest, or rather one of the most important reason for startups being failed was building something which nobody wants, which means they're building a product or services which market does not want at all. But when startups are developing it, they feel it is required, they feel it is this is what users or customers need. But when they launch the product, when they see the market behavior, they realize that they have failed miserably. Now, design thinking will play a very vital role. I will say, if you understand this process and if you have used this technique in development of a product or services, I am 100% sure that you are almost safe from failing the startup because of the first reason, which is no market need. Let us see why. Before understanding design thinking, I would like to put a highlight on what is human-centered design. What is called human-centered design? This is the creative approach for a problem solving that focuses in understanding the people's need at the center of the issue to be resolved, which means anything where you keep human being at the center and then try to understand the problem and try to define solution. So that approach is called human-centered approach. Now, what is design thinking? Whenever I coin this word design thinking in front of my students, normally they say that so this should be something like related to the brain or cognitive activity or designing a thought process, something like that. It's not something like that. Design thinking is a very structured methodology. It is methodology that utilizes a human-centered approach wherein you keep a human being at the center of the core analysis to systematically identify opportunities for innovation. Now, here, the opportunity that you have identified using this technique, I think this is utmost sure that this is something which people need. And then failing a startup with this innovation, I think it is one of the first reason you will almost overcome out of it. So let us see what is this technique. I want all of you to understand and pay very close attention to the method of this technique. So very first step of this technique is empathize. There are 5 steps in this technique. Second step is define. Third is ideate. Fourth is prototype. And fifth is test. This is a very simple technique of 5 steps, but when you apply this, you will face little difficulty. But I am very much sure that if you judiciously understand all these 5 steps, what you are supposed to do, and apply it on a startup idea, I think the chances of you being successful is very high. So let's start with this technique. So let us understand what is involved in each of these steps. We'll start with the step number 1, empathize. Empathize have been came from the word empathy. Empathy meaning trying to feel the user's pain, basically, right? Trying to understand them very well with a very close connection to those people. So what you have to do in this first step, in the first step of empathize or design thinking, you have to conduct research in order to develop knowledge about what your users do, say, think and feel. Which means here you will have to firstly identify people or the users that you feel you will contribute to, and try to understand what they do, what they say, what they think, how they feel, right? And this understanding will help you also. You will try to go to as many people as possible, right? And how can you empathize this step? You can do interviews, you can shadow them, you can follow them, you can. But here one important thing I would suggest you: do not try to be judgmental. Why? Because you are not looking at situation from your eyes, you are looking at the situation from the user's eye. Something which is not good for from your perspective may be good for from their perspective, right? So here you should not be judgmental, number one, and you are performing this step to understand them well. So try to accept everything what your users say, right? So in first step, what you will do, you will go out, try to meet hundreds and hundreds of people, try take them, interview them, try to understand them, what they say, what they do, how they think, how they feel, right? Now in step number two, what you will do, you will define what. Here, whatever research you have done in the step number one, you will come down together as a team, sit at one place, and try to understand what all those research that you have done, and try to summarize those things and try to collect these things. So in step number two, what you will do, you will combine all your research and observe where your user's problem actually exists. From the research, you will identify where is the main problem and what is that major pain point of the user. And that pain point is nothing but the opportunity for the innovation. Got my point? So in define phase, what you will do, you will try to understand the major pain point of your users. Step number three, ideate. By the word, you might have got what you are supposed to do. You have to brainstorm. Brainstorm for what? Now when you know your users well, now when you have defined their major pain point, now what you will do is you will ideate for what? You will ideate for developing the solution of the given pain point. Now here what you will do, you will take two approach. First is diverge, second is converge. In a first phase, what you will do of this step, you will try to define as many alternate solution as possible. Try to be very hypothetical. Imagine yourself, imagine a solution that is very crazy, creative, and try to list down all those solutions. And here in this step, quantity supersedes quality. So it is good that if you have n number of alternate solutions, it is good to have more number of alternate solutions in this step. So see, I'll tell you one thing. Do not restrict yourself with today's world. So 50 years or 100 years back, if somebody would hold this device and pretend to talk to somebody else in other part of the globe, you would be asking them to be very crazy. This is how it is possible that somebody holds the device and can talk to a person standing on the other part of the globe. But today it is possible, right? So what I meant to say with this is that today what you are trying to develop crazy ideas, it may not be possible today, but it is possible in future. So don't restrict yourself and brainstorming. So the first phase of this step would be figure out n number of alternate possible solutions to mitigate the major pain point of the user, which is defined in step number two. And now in second phase, what you will do of this step, you are going to actually pick one solution out of those alternate solutions which you have developed or you have identified, and pick one solution which is feasible, the most feasible one. So I'll just read this statement. Brainstorm a range of creative ideas that addresses the unmet user needs, which is identified in defined phase. Give yourself and your team total freedom. No idea is too far-fetched, and quantity supersedes quality. Share all the ideas. Now at the end of ideate phase, you should have in your hand one most feasible, suitable solution to the addressing the unmet need, that is a pain point of your user. Fourth, so far in step 1, 2 and 3, what you have done, you have understood your customers well, you have understood their pain point, you have figured out the best feasible solution for them. In point number 4, step number 4, what you will do is you will actually build a first version of a solution. When you're building the first version, I'll read this. Your goal is to understand whether solution is actually solving a problem or not. So only focus on those key features of a solution, build a prototype of it. So build real tactile representations of a subset of a solution or your ideas. May not be the entire product, but it is very, very key features, right? Only build those prototype with the key features. The goal of this phase is to understand what component of your ideas work with the customers and what does not work. In this phase, you begin to weigh impact versus feasibility of your ideas through feedback that you will receive from the customers. So once you build some product, you can build storyboards. Here you have to be very iterate quickly. So develop something that can be tested very quickly, fail fast, iterate quickly, and develop storyboards, mockups, whatever you want, and the first versions of your prototype or proof of concepts, right? But here you will build that. Then finally is testing. After you have built the first version or a very simple prototypes, you return to your users for a feedback. Ask yourself, does this solution met users' need or not? And has it improved how they feel, how they think, how they do, or how they what do they say? Has it improved upon those things or not? If yes, then you can say that you have identified a real need, you identified a real solution, and you have developed the innovation altogether out of it. If not, what components needs to be changed will, based on the feedback of the user, you will take those and again try to reiterate this. So here your idea is to understand what actually works and what does not work. So design thinking, if I give you some representation, it is something like this. So at the beginning, if you see you are standing here, let me just highlight a pointer. At the beginning, you are over here and you are empathizing the step, which means you are trying to understand, you are diverging yourself and trying to understand your users and asking yourself what is that they are saying, what is that they are feeling, what is that they are doing. So ask this question to yourself about your users. You diverge in the first space. In define phase, what you will do, I mean, once you diverge and then you pinpoint something saying that this is the major pain point of your users at the end of step number 1, which is empathize. In step 2, what you will do, so in sorry, I'm sorry, in define phase, you will point down your research, you will converge and boil down to a one point saying that this is the major pain point of your user. Okay. Now what you will do in step number 3, ideate. You will again in ideate, you will follow 2 steps. You will first diverge and then you will converge. Diverge for what? Diverge for multiple solutions to the pain point of your users. And then after diverging, you will converge and select one solution which you feel is very implementable for this pain point, right? So you will ask this question to yourself during divergence, that what if this can be solved like this, what if this can be solved like this, right? So you will ask this question to yourself and you will get all those crazy ideas. Prototype, what wows. Now here what you will do, you will actually build a solution, the first version, the storyboard, mockups, which you can carry along with you and go back to your customers or users, right, to test it. So here you will ask yourself what wows them. What is that thing which will wow them, which will make them happy and which will make them feel okay, the problem is solved. So you will build something. And then finally, what works. In the test phase, you will go with your prototype to the users, will try to collect the feedback and understand what features of your product is working and what is not working, and then you will iterate this up till the final testing is done. So that's why I would say this process is a loopy process. It's not a straightforward. Initially you go straightforward, you empathize, then you define, then you ideate, then you prototype, and then you test. Based on the result of test, you may either fall back to the empathize phase because you feel that whatever problem you have identified, it was not the correct problem. So you may again go back to the empathize phase. You may also feel at define phase. You will feel that the major pain point is something else. It is not the one which you have identified. You may also go back to ideate phase when you feel that the solution that you have developed is not working. The problem is genuine, but solution is not working. You will brainstorm for the solution. You may also boil down to prototype and then again test it. So this will continue, never ending loop up till the point where you and your customers are very happy with the solution. So let's understand this process by a real life example. So I hope worldwide across the world, you see almost 15 million premature babies are born every year. Premature babies means before the 9 months they need to be, the delivery happens of the babies prematurely. And the most common preventable cause of the infant mortality is hypothermia. It is found in the research that most common preventable cause of mortality of infant is hypothermia. So this problem was given to the students of Stanford University's design school, D School of Stanford University. The team have used this technology of this technique of design thinking to come up with a novel, innovative solution, but they would have never arrived at this solution if they would have remained in the bubble of the Stanford University's campus. So I would suggest you, if you are actually want to develop a solution for the people, you have to move out of your campus, of your comfort zone, and talk to people. So initially the design team thought that, see, if infant mortality was the issue, hypothermia was the issue, this issue can be easily solved by providing incubators to the babies. So they thought that if babies are dying because of hypothermia, it should be because of scarcity of incubators in hospitals, and this should be because of the high cost of incubators. So they thought that let us redesign the existing hospital incubators to be very simpler and more cost effective, and this with this more hospitals could afford this incubators, and then the common cause of infant mortality could be saved. So more number of babies can be saved from this hypothermia. Initially they thought like this, but when the professor said to deploy this technique, as a part of this technique, the first step for them was to empathize. When I say empathize, in empathy, what they need to do? They need to first identify the key stakeholders surrounding the problem, and then go and meet them, go and see them. So in this problem, who are the key people? So key people are hospital staff, the doctors, and the parents of the child who are in danger. So they need to empathy to see problem clearly from the perspective of hospital staff, doctors, and most importantly the parents. So they went and met all these people. They found something strange. Team member Linus Liang toured a hospital in Nepal, and he noticed something strange, that incubators are sitting empty, which means if scarcity of incubator, which they felt initially was a problem, but then incubator should not be sitting empty because most of the babies are dying because of hypothermia. Then what is the problem? When they was interacting, they found that after interviewing a doctor about this, he learned that many homes where these babies are born, they are born, the homes are almost 45 kilometers or more away on the rough rural roads, and the parents face the fight for the baby's life at home itself without much hope of making it to hospital. Now this interview has clearly depicted that the problem is not the incubators or the cost of incubator or unavailability of incubator in the hospital. The problem is the babies where they are born, they are at the rough rural areas, and the hospital is very far from their houses, and parents face difficulty to make the baby to that hospital. So now they started defining it. So what is the main problem? Their problem was they started defining it that they should build a product which can help the parents at their home itself or during the traveling itself. So it should be firstly free offering because they were belonging to rural areas, which is middle or lower middle class people. So it should be free in first place. No need of electricity because in rural areas the electricity is intermittent maybe, and when traveling also should not need. So the product itself should have a feature of non need of electricity. It should have their own power supply. It should be lightweight because it should be portable. Right? This is what they have defined initially. That the product or solution should be having these features. An ideate. Now what they did? They sat together, they thought of all the crazy ideas, and then they finally decided to build a very portable incubator, much like a teeny heating sleeping bag. That's it. And now the fourth step prototype, they built the first version of prototype like in a simple jacket. They built some electronic gadgets to heat the environment and to a particular temperature, and then they tested it, and in the test they found that the jacket that they came with, the first one was not suiting the baby's body. Then they came with second one, which was very much little more comfortable, and then they came up with something like this, which is even more comfortable. And they tested it, and you will not believe, at the end of this process they have formed a company, and the company has grew to 90 people by now, and they have helped over 3,000 babies today and saved their life, and the company is embraced global, and this is what the product looks like, the final product, you see. And the founders from left to right, you see all these founders of students of Stanford University are the founder of this company now. So they have actually developed a product based or using the design thinking technology and process, and then now I wish that the chances of their failure is now remote because now they've identified the main gap. Otherwise they would keep on struggling on developing a low cost incubator for the hospitals. So I hope you got the fair idea about this technique, and I want you to apply this technique on your own startup idea. Thank you so much. With this, you will reduce the risk of your failure. Thank you.